welcome to the Ardbeg tasting. My name's Michael. I'm the distillery manager at Ardbeg. Everybody calls me Mickey. We don't go in formalities, so I hope you enjoy what we're going to taste today. Has this been a first time for anybody to do an Ardbeg tasting? So it's completely new. So welcome along. I'll try and explain a little bit about what we do, where we come from, and hopefully you'll maybe put it all together and hopefully enjoy the whiskies that we're going to taste today. As you can see, this is where the distillery is. This is where I work. This is my home. I live here. So it's a hell of a job, but somebody's got to do it, you know. So you can see we're right by the seaside. And what we'll try and explain to you today, or show you today, is where all some of these really rich flavours and all that hint of the sea today. This is my first time in Germany, Berlin, you know, the last 2 days. I'd really like to thank you for laying on the really good weather for me. Makes me really feel at home. I thought I'd see some sunshine, but no. In Islay we have a saying with all the distillery managers that we are always crying out for rain. But please, it's okay, we don't need any more. So welcome along. What we've got for you, you have a glass there today. I'm afraid the way the logistics are today, we just have the one glass for you. So if you don't want to drink it all, the girls will come along when we change and you can pour out and we can swap over to give you a round. It doesn't mean you have to sort of swallow it all at the minute, but if you keep a little bit in the glass, I'll sort of talk you through it as we come through, but it'll help you to sort of maybe appreciate what we're doing as we go through the presentation. At Ardbeg, we like to think that we call, if you like, the ultimate Islay malt. That's where we sort of base ourselves, because if you know Islay whiskies, we're famous, you know, for the really rich, smoky whiskies that do. But Ardbeg is not all about smoke. There's a complexity and a balance in everything that we try and do. So we have our signature with Ardbeg, but what we have within the whiskey is a balance of lots of things. It's within the malted barley, with the smoke and with the cask, to try and give you something that's pretty special and that you can remember. So that's why we like to call ourselves the ultimate Islay malt. Another thing too, we don't take ourselves too seriously. We have if you go to our website, if you ever visit ardbeg.com, you'll see this little fella here. We call him the peatiest nose in Islay. He's always sniffing around the distillery. He belongs to a little family who live in the village, and we sort of took him as a mascot many years ago. And when you come along, you sometimes see him dodging around the place. He's got the freedom of Ardbeg, so, but he's getting rather old now. We need a succession plan. So, but he's still there. So we have a little bit of fun. If you know about Ardbeg, with some of the whiskies that we taste, we tell stories, little stories about the whiskies, and you know, 10 is what we do, and I'll explain it later. But we tell little stories, and I have a couple of little films in that I want to show you. That, you know, one tells a little bit about how people revere Ardbeg, but also there's a little bit of amusement as well, and we'll play something later on that I'm sure you'll enjoy. We've been quite lucky in the last few years that since Glenmorangie took over Ardbeg, which I'll expand on later on, in the last sort of few years, we've won lots of awards for the whiskies, and especially in the Whiskey Bible. And Jim Murray, in 2008, our 10-year-old won it. 2009, Ugadal won the best whiskey in the single malt in the world. And then in 2010 we had Supernova. So a lot of the experts, it's quite well revered. They like what we do, and you know, so it obviously gives you quite a good confidence that when, you know, people who enjoy that whiskey and are knowledgeable about it enjoy what you do. So it gives you quite a bit of satisfaction. I'm going to play a little thing. It doesn't last for very long at the moment, and it tells you a little couple of things about some of the things that are said about us.
Hello there.
Hope you enjoy it. Hope you agree. We've also we have quite a passionate following about Ardbeg. Just over 10 years ago, we formed the Ardbeg Committee, which is like a club that we have. We have about 65,000 members worldwide now, and we do special bottlings for them sort of every year, so they can get either a pre-release of what we're going to bring out later in the year, or we can do a special bottling for them. And as you can see, some people get really very passionate about it. We have tattoos on their shoulders, sometimes on your back and on the legs, so they get really, as Jim said, it changes your life a little bit. So we have quite a passionate following on it. So, and these people sort of come and visit us at the distillery every year. Have we got any committee members here? One or two. Is that all? So you need to come to the stand later when you see and we will let you join, because you get to. Sorry. You want a tattoo? When would you like it? Just be careful, don't answer that question. But you can see what people like. They get really passionate about what we do, and they really enjoy the whisky and at the distillery. So it's an important part for us as well. So the committee, as I said, started off really to help grow Ardbeg. When Ardbeg, if we go back maybe 20-30 years, I mean, Ardbeg was closed down for many years through the 1980s, and it had no whisky at all. And so we're really quite young in the single malt market. From about 1997 onwards, Ardbeg has been bringing out these sort of award-winning whiskies. Prior to the 70s, I mean, Ardbeg, if I go back to the 1960s, I mean, I spoke to one of the old managers who lives in the village not far from me. And in the mid-1960s, they filled 1 cask per year for single malt whisky. All the rest went for blending. So it gives you a distinct impression of what it was doing then. It always had a name as a good quality whisky. We'd make a really good high quality whisky. Now we fill everything for Ardbeg 100% single malt. So if you like, we've gone from one extreme to the other, right round. So everything that now we do at Ardbeg is totally focused on single malt. And as I explain as we go around and just how we put it together, and then we can explain, you know, just how that following has grown. We say we're rooted in Islay. I mean, we come from a wild, I wouldn't say a wild, windswept island, but this is some of the peat bogs that we are. To show you where we are on Islay, we're just across from the central belt of Scotland. We go to your right there, you will get Glasgow, then Edinburgh, so we're quite far south. We're the further south of what we call the Hebrides, which is the islands off the west coast. And Islay is known as the Queen of the Hebrides. It's the most fertile of the Western Isles. And so in days gone by, they grew cereals, grain, barley, and when they were finished or storing some for food, they made whisky with it. They had that knowledge. So Islay at one time had hundreds of illicit distillers at one time. Now we just have the 8 distilleries. You can see them dotted on the island here, and we're famous really for this. We're a designation of Scotch all in its own. We have Islay, Highlands, Speyside, Lowlands, and Islay has that sort of typical character. We've retained that original character from the soil, where we take some of the first fills, which give you creamy, vanilla, coconutty notes, and then we do the second fill, which give you some of the lighter, floral and spicier notes. So a combination of those together gives you Ardbeg TEN. So that's what we put together, and we try to do this. We've been doing that last week at the distillery, preparing the next bottling of it. So we take a batch of casks, it could be 50 or 100 or even more casks, and before we make each batch, we actually test and physically sample every single cask. Not that we drink every one, because we'd never get it done, but we actually sample the cask, look at the colour, check the nose, water it down, check again, just to make sure that everything is okay, and we put it together that way. Then it goes into large vats and it marries for a few days before it's then ready for bottling. So that's a 10-year-old that we're going to be drinking now. A little bit about Ugadal. We're not going to taste Ugadal today, but Ugadal, one of my favourite Ardbegs. We called it after the loch. You can see the colour in it. We use sherry wood with the Ugadal. That's a defining thing that's different from the Ardbeg TEN. So we mature sherry casks, and that's the heart of Ugadal. So it gives you a different heart within the whisky, and round about it we have also the American bourbon cask as well. So it gives you the softness. So Ugadal is big, rich, smoky and sweet, we call it. It's a very different animal compared to the TEN. Again, one of my favourite Ardbegs. We want a nice ram for a quiet, wet evening. Ardbeg Ugadal is very nice for relaxing us. Yeah. So we're going to do the second one you've got in your glass. Does everyone have one now, yeah? This is Corryvreckan. And Corryvreckan, as you said in Jim's comments earlier on, is a different animal altogether. This one is 57.1% ABV. To tell you a little bit about it, it's called after a whirlpool that's on the west coast, a few miles from Ardbeg. It's the top end of Jura, and this thing swirls and spins in the sea. If you ever get a chance to go there, I was in it about a month ago, and you go with a fast boat and this thing is swirling around in the waves. If you get it at the turn of tide, it's quite frightening. The sea comes in big lumps. This is about a 3-metre high wall of water going around, so when you're in it, but it's quite spectacular. This is at the time when you want the boat engine to keep going. If it stops, you're in trouble. But so it's there, and we called it that. So it's full of really deep, rich, swelling figures. So we take a sample of it. So on the nose, it's really powerful. It's got lots of big spice. The thing with this is it's French oak is the heart of this one. So it's a different type of oak wood. It's new French oak barrels, which is in the heart of this, and that gives you the big, rich, powerful flavour. This one on the nose has lots of hints of the sea, very powerful. Lots of sort of tarry, rich smoke to it. A little bit of what we call menthol and cloves. You get like a Christmas spice to it. I don't know if anyone picked that up. Right on the nose. Try a little taste. This one is quite powerful at the start, and then it gets nice and soft. So. Just fills the mouth, just coats your tongue, really mouth filling, and then it gets really soft. We don't really have any water with us for going round today, but this will stand a little bit of water, you know, and when you're drinking it slowly, it will sort of open up and give you sort of more different characters. So after a little while you get like a sort of peppery sort of steak flavour in your mouth. You get this sort of smoky bacon character that comes from it, and a big finish. Yeah.
That's good.
Does anyone like this?
Oh yes.
Yeah, yeah. Better than the 10? Yeah, so much so. Do you like this big? It's got a big, really powerful flavour. And again, it's 57.1, so it's bottled at cask strength. So it's got that weight from it, but it gets really silky. But you just want to keep chewing this. You can get it around your mouth. You get that saltiness, that full, rich, smoky flavour to it. And you get that. I call it like a crispy seaweedy note to it. That iodine, if you get the seaweed on the beach and you just sort of taking it back, it builds the pictures of where we come from again. So it's really rich, really filling. So this is now part of our range that we do. We have the 3 main whiskies with Ardbeg. We have 10-year-old, we have the Oktober, and we have Corryvreckan. So this is some of the ones that we do, and it describes the sort of type of flavour that we have. This big, bold whiskey that we have. But it has a softness. It's not what you expect. Did somebody expect? Did you expect more peat or more of it? Is it what you expected? So you get that lightness, as I was trying to describe the flavouring. It's not all about peat smoke. There's a lot of big complex flavours in there. And with Ardbeg we try to do a lot with balance. Get the balance right. Just try not to make sure one thing is not too pungent in the flavour. You want to sort of balance out a lot of the flavours. So we have a signature with Ardbeg, and you want to complement it, and balance is quite important to us. So we'll never put something there that is going to concentrate mainly on one thing. It's a combination of lots of different flavours. We have some, Hamish, who works with us, our sort of brand director, has some brilliant ideas, and he came up with that one there last year, so we've had really good fun with that this year. Probably one of my favourite ones. So it's quite humorous. So this is what we call Ardbeg Alligator. This is what we released this year. So this is a sort of limited edition. The bottle on the left with the cream label is what we call for our committee. So we released this earlier in June, a few thousand bottles, so they have something that's just that little bit different. And then on the 1st of September we released the general release for the markets and so worldwide. It's a limited edition. I mean, it'll be gone, I would imagine, very, very shortly. It seems to have been very popular over the last few months, which is great. Tell you a little bit about it. Alligator, the name. We're looking at developing new things all the time. So this is made from new American oak casks that have not had anything in them before, but have been really heavily charred. So it's a minute and a half charring, so it's really, really heavy, what we call level 4 char. And then if you look at it inside the cask, when you see it, it looks like alligator skin, and they call it alligator char. So that's what gives it the flavouring. So it gives you that big rich character and flavour from it. So the whiskey that we have here for it today, you can smell on your nose. Lots of vanilla in this one. I get quite a sort of fruity. Does anyone get sort of baked pineapple-y, fruity front end to this? So you get that, lots of fruit in the front, lots of vanilla. It's incredible that we spoke earlier on about the peat smoke is still there, and it's still the same level as you tasted in 10-year-old or you tasted in Corryvreckan, but the wood adds different character or different flavour to it. So we're talking about the importance of wood during maturation and the character the wood brings to it. So this gives you, again, a completely different style. It's very rich and very spicy also as well. So lots of ginger root on the front of this. Oak shavings. There's also a little bit of chocolatey note through it as well. It's 51.2, so it's a little bit weaker than the Corryvreckan. So the Angels have had their fair share of this. That deep charring, we've lost a lot more through the evaporation when it's been maturing. But again, at full strength, really deep, rich gold colour. Again, because we've gone further into the wood, we've pulled a lot more of that oak character and tannin and lactone from the wood. So a little taste. Got a sort of sweetness to it at that front end. It's really spicy. Then you get the oak, and then you get the peat smoke, and then you just want to keep chewing it. It's really oily, and a little bit drying at the back. So you can see where that difference and all that difference of wood. Now it's not all about charring. Within there we also use some first fill bourbon cask, a normal bourbon cask, just to calm it a little bit, because the charring is very rich and sooty, gives you really lots of that earthy, sooty, bonfire note to it. So just how to calm a little bit with the creaminess of the first fill, so that you've got a nicely balanced whisky and not something, again, that's too defined one way or the other. So, do you like this? Yeah, it's really nice. So it's so you can see, we tell a little bit of story about it. Serious, the whisky we try and make is always very good. We try and make really good whisky, give you something that is going to be what we think the best it can be when it goes into the bottle. And there's a little bit of difference between each one. So again, it's non-chill filtered, so it's full texture from it, just straight from the cask into the bottle. And then we have the Alligator. Next year, who knows?
Thank you.
Ones there, they're Spanish sherry butts, so they contain up to anything between 450 and 650 litres. And it, depending on the bodega or the type of sherry that's been maturing in it before. And that's the three main styles that we use, along with the French oak barrels that we use for Corryvreckan. They're again slightly different size. They hold roughly about 230 litres, so they're a slightly different size. So it's that oak wood, and because it's Scotch, we have to mature in oak. We're not allowed to use any other wood, and it's that different style of woods that we use. Yeah.
You use them only twice, huh?
We fill them twice.
Twice.
Yeah. This is a refill, so this has been maturing for 13 years, and normally, you know, depending on the length of time. Many years ago, when you're doing blending, which was done at maybe 3 and 4 years old, you could fill a cask 5, 6, 7 times, because it's a short period of time. But when you're looking at single malts, if it's 10, 15, years, by the time you do it twice, you've taken a lot of that character and the flavour is coming out of the wood, so you tire them very quickly. So usually twice we will do it. Sometimes you can do 3 times, but normally we would just do it twice for ourselves. So this is a sherry hoggy, Oloroso style that we use because it suits Ardbeg really well. With the sweetness, it's not too sweet or too drying. But on the nose, as we said earlier on, it's not aggressive. You get that peat smoke, but it's just somewhere in the background. And you've got that light, sweet, spicy note to it that you would get with sherry. You get the dried fruits, dates and the raisins, a little bit of cinnamon spice on the whisky. But it's very soft. I think it's when somebody asked me yesterday, how can you say it's soft? It's a big, heavy peated whisky, but it's not. You're not expecting this big smoky hit on your nose. So, as I explained earlier with the distillation and how we do it, it's got that little bit of softness, and then once you taste it, which we shall do, nice, deep, rich colour. Now this one's only been sort of 13 years in a barrel, so we always sort of say, roll it around your mouth, put it in your tongue, give it 13 seconds in your mouth. It's been waiting an awful long time. It's really nice and give you the full texture in your mouth. This one's sort of initially sweet, a little bit peppery, and then really drying. Got it on your tongue, you get that little bit of dryness. And then it's quite soft in the finish, and it just keeps growing and growing in your mouth. Yeah. Like this? Yeah. Slightly 5. So this was from the year I left school. So it's again, it's a refill sherry cask. 45.3, nice example of something that's very old, but there's a freshness on this one as well, a touch of spiciness, a little bit of orange marmalade in there. Does anyone pick up anything else? Yeah?